best friend, whom I've secretly loved for years, introduced me as his sister, leaving me questioning our entire relationship. I, 25F/, have known my best friend, 26 male, for 12 years. I've been secretly in love with him for about half that time. Just a little backstory. We met back in middle school when his family moved into the townhouse next to ours. At the time I was in 7th grade, he was in 8th. We quickly became friends not long after and were spending a lot of time together, basic friendly interactions. Our backyards were connected, so when our parents were asleep he would sometimes slip out of his patio door and come over to my room and we would just talk. Around my junior year, his senior year, of high school, we were both going through bad breakups at the same time. One of these nights where he came over, he kind of made a joke about how easy it would be for us to date. I agreed, but we kind of laughed it off and didn't bring it up again. Then about 2 weeks later it finally happened. We did everything but have sex that night. The next day we both kind of moved on like it never happened. However, things slowly changed after that. This is when I began developing feelings. We both graduated, he moved away as fast as he could, not far, just a couple towns over. The first couple years of not being right next door we barely saw each other but still texted and occasionally talked on the phone. I figured this was mostly due to the fact he started dating someone at the time. Over the last 3 years we've been closer than ever, both of us single. We talk on the phone every single day and have not missed a day, even if it's a quick hello and just checking in. He knows I'm afraid of bugs and has came to my place to kill big spiders for me, a couple of those times between 1 to 3 a.m. We frequently buy each other gifts for holidays, birthdays, and often just because. Every year he takes me out for Valentine's Day and my birthday to rather extravagant dinners and an activity he thinks I would enjoy. A few times he has sent flowers to my job just because, and even surprised me a couple months ago delivering the flowers to me personally because I was having a bad day. I've taken him on vacation for his birthday, just the two of us, and I've also surprised him at work with various gifts if he was having a bad day. We take care of each other when we're sick, like sleeping over each other's house and basically nursing back to health. He knows thunderstorms scare me and will often spend the night with me if it's really getting to me. Yes, sleeping in the same bed. He has on multiple occasions said things like, "I wish I could date someone like you," or "I wish I could find someone like me for you." To which I have replied, "Yay, we would be perfect for each other," but we always leave it there. This year I moved closer to him, about a 3-minute drive. He also works in the area and I work from home 3 days a week. We both work in an office setting that allows us to talk on the phone all day while we're working. It's basically a part of our routine. He calls me on his way to work, and unless one of us has a meeting we stay on the phone all day until he gets off. Our coworkers know this about us. He has been out with my coworkers and I for drinks. While I have not met any of his, I've talked to a couple of them on the phone frequently, as sometimes when he's in his office he will have me on speaker. They know my name but have never met me in person. I work mornings and he starts in the afternoon, so when I'm getting off work he's usually going on his lunch. If I'm working from home he would come over on his lunch break and I would make him food. When I'm in the office I would pick him up something and bring it to him at the office, or just grab him and we would go out to eat on his lunch. Well, yesterday he was getting off work early and I was picking him up to go to dinner and then our town's carnival together. He purposely walked to work this day because the carnival is near his office and the parking is horrendous during this time. When I got there he was still finishing up some work and I had to go to the bathroom really badly, so I came in to use theirs. He got me and brought me back to his office. While we were walking out we ran into a couple of his coworkers and they asked if I was his girlfriend. I said no and thought we would leave it there. He doubled down and said, "This is my little sister." I was floored. He has never referred to me as his sister, at least to my knowledge. I've never told him how I feel about him, but I've hinted around it a little and our mutual friends have asked us why we aren't just dating before, and he has said he doesn't want to lose me as a friend. Call me crazy, but if anything my feelings have tripled for him over the last 3 years of him basically treating me like his girlfriend. Now I feel completely stupid, like I read into things too deeply. This morning he called me when he was leaving work. His office occasionally has to work Saturdays when they're busy. He told me his coworkers asked about me, saying they've never seen him with a girl and could have sworn we were dating based on how we were looking at each other. They said they've never seen him look as happy as he looked when we were together. He told him it's just great having someone in his life who completely understands him and he can be himself around. I'm so confused. I'm not going to tell him how I feel, but knowing he thinks of me as a sister has me very shocked, confused, and just feeling like an idiot. Honestly, I'm really shy, and any time I have expressed my feelings to guys before I've been rejected, and I would just hate for that to happen with him. I've done everything short of actually telling him to hint at us dating. He calls me babe and baby girl all the time. When giving me compliments he'll say things like, "Look at my girl, you're so beautiful." Since we've both been single for so long, I said to him before, like, if we weren't both married or in relationships by 30 we should just marry each other, kind of as a joke. He never directly responded to that, just said that we really would be perfect for each other. I'm a bigger girl, and while he has dated people only a little smaller than me, never anyone my size. He talked to someone who was similar in size to me earlier this year and honestly she was kinda perfect. I was little jealous. I was sure they would date. He stopped talking to her and his reasoning was he's never dated anyone that big and just couldn't see how it would work sexually. At the time this made me feel bad, not only for her but also for myself given my feelings. And given him calling me his sister, I kinda feel like he's been using me as a stand-in girlfriend while he's single, as he really is a super romantic guy. Update 1. I've been secretly in love with my best friend for a few years, and we definitely crossed the boundaries of a normal friendship, but then he introduced me as his sister to his coworkers. Well, as a lot of the comments stated, he's not attracted to me. The opportunity finally arose for me to bring it up casually. We were talking about relationships, and he was saying how he hasn't had much luck finding anyone, things just haven't worked out for various reasons. Despite a lot of the comments, none of those reasons have been for how close we are. So as he's telling me about the latest girl he stopped talking to, she was hardly ever responding to texts/calls for anyone interested in the reason. I said, well, it sounds like you need to change up from what you usually go for. I basically told him he needs someone like me in our relationship. He agreed. He literally said word for word, "Yeah, you're right, if you were someone else we would definitely be together." This was my first opportunity to bring it up, but I chickened out. Then we were both talking about how we haven't had sex in a while as we've both been single, and I said, yeah, we should help each other out. He kinda laughed awkwardly, and I should have took that as the sign, but I was in it now. I had the courage to finally ask, why have we never dated? He admitted that he used to have feelings for me in high school but didn't think I would leave my ex. The ex he was referring to was the guy I was with before we had our one night that we don't talk about. I asked him why he thought that when I was literally with him afterwards, and then we never spoke of it. He said it just didn't seem like I was over him at the time. So naturally asked what about after, when he realized I didn't want him back. He said he had already started thinking of me differently and now sees me as his sister. He says he couldn't go back on that now, it's too weird, it would really be like dating his sister. I didn't really push the conversation after this, I just let it end. I actually feel like he lied, which is a lot because I've never felt that way before. I really think he was never attracted in the first place, and maybe that night was a rebound situation and he didn't want to hurt my feelings. Either way, I know the truth now and I'm moving on. A lot of people said I was letting these feelings hold me back from relationships, and genuinely I wasn't. I've dated and things have ended for various reasons, also none of those reasons being because of my relationship with him. I actually found out the reason none of his exes had an issue is because he's been telling them I'm his sister this whole time. So yay, safe to say that's never happening. I still feel utterly stupid and delusional for ever thinking it was anything romantic, but lesson learned, I guess. This isn't going to end our friendship, but I will definitely be setting more boundaries, starting with no more sleepovers. Update 2. Okay, so I wasn't going to make another update, but I feel like we're on this journey together now. I'm not sure how to link previous posts, but they're on my profile. The TLDR, I'm in love with my best friend, but he introduced me to his coworkers as his sister. I tried to address it without revealing my feelings. He told me he used to have feelings for me, but he now only sees me as his sister. Now that we're all caught up, onto the update. So many comments said my approach should have been direct. A few people thinking he probably has feelings for me but is also scared I don't feel the same way. Well, sorry to disappoint, that wasn't the case. A couple days ago he sent me a TikTok of a guy saying something like, to my girlfriends, if you've never been fucked right, it's my duty to show you what good DCK feels like. So with this TikTok and the encouragement of the comments, I finally did it. I responded back with a TikTok I found that says something like, when he's calling you his sister but he should be calling you his soulmate. He responded with a laugh emoji. I responded back, I'm serious. It took him a couple hours to respond to this. I was sure he still didn't get it, but finally he did. He called me as he was leaving work. He asked if the TikTok meant what he thought it meant. I said, if you think it means that I feel like we're meant to be together but you're out here calling me your sister, then yes. He just went silent. So silent that I had to check to make sure the call hadn't disconnected. I said, did I break you? He asked where this was coming from. I said I've had feelings for a while and I wasn't sure he felt the same way, so I just hadn't said anything. Well, a couple of y'all guessed what happened next. He has a problem with my size. Since this is anonymous anyway, might as well just put the numbers. Back in high school I was around 250 pounds. I graduated early, so I finished at the end of my junior year to allow myself a gap year. During this time I was working 2 full-time jobs and a part-time job. I know, when TF did I sleep? After an accident where I fell down some concrete stairs and broke my leg in 2 places. It was winter and the stairs were icy. I lost all 3 of my jobs and was unemployed for the next 10 months. I was extremely depressed and definitely put on some weight, and had just been going up in weight for years after. Now I'm currently at 432 pounds and still on the longest journey to get back to at least my high school weight for now. He said he's never dated anyone my size before and does not know how that would work. During sex. None of this was making sense to me. Every single girl he has dated is technically the same size as me. He has always dated shorter girls, 5 feet 3 inches, and by his own account they were around 200 to 250 pounds. I'm 5'7". Technically the way I carry weight, the size is no different than anyone else he has dated. What I did not know is one time I went to lunch with him after a doctor's appointment and he saw some papers from the visit in my car and it had my weight on there, which at the time was 464 pounds. This apparently is when he started looking at me differently. He just didn't think it would logistically work out, but oh, don't worry, he understands that I have literally everything he is looking for in a relationship. He actually said, you always fill in the gap when I don't have a girlfriend. Seriously, WTF. I had to dig real deep into my years of therapy because my first thought was, okay, so if I get back to 250 then he'll have feelings for me again. I was disgusted with myself for even thinking that. Needless to say, we haven't talked in days. I scheduled another therapy appointment, and I don't think we can even be friends after this. I guess thanks Reddit for encouraging me to have a direct conversation and really discover how he feels about me. Edit to add, I guess the comments think I put this weight on overnight. This was over 7 to 8 years of unhealthy choices and habits where I was in a place that I was severely depressed and did not care if I lived or not. Even once I started back working, I had to take a job I hated and was having the hardest time finding something new, so my habits continued. I was working an office job from home and I was not working out at all. I made a comment explaining more, so I won't duplicate that here. I am not in any way mad that he feels this way. I'm just sad. There is also a comment explaining that too, but I'm a US size 4X, he is a US size 3X. This is part of why his reason shocked me. It's not like he's a super skinny guy. I am not in denial about my size. I know I'm a big girl and I am working on that. I know my size is no one's fault but my own for not waking up sooner. I'm allowed to feel sad and ashamed. Regardless of size, you can't possibly tell me you wouldn't feel sad. The person you love has basically admitted to using you as a place filler. Last edit, to all the comments saying it's fake based on my size comparison, I have stood next to these girls and really did not think I'm that much bigger than them. I guess from the comments I may have body dysmorphia. I have a big chest and carry more weight in my hips and thighs than my stomach. Also, I've been working on body comp, so I've kind of distributed out to muscle as well. I've lost more inches than actual numbers. A few people think I'm just saying I'm working on it but not actually doing anything. I actually mean I'm working on it. I made another comment on this, but I'm in a cooking class to learn healthier eating and making healthy meals. I have a personal trainer I meet with twice a week. I'm seeing a dietitian. I didn't put it in my other comment, but I have PCOS and thyroid issues that hormonally just makes it harder, but I have doctors for that as well. Update 3. I wasn't planning on saying anything else, but the last week went sideways in a way I didn't expect, and I feel like if I don't get it out of my head I'm going to replay it forever. After that call where he said the thing about logistics and basically admitted he uses me to fill in the gap, I stopped answering. Not in a dramatic blocking way, just in I put my phone face down and let it ring way. We've talked every day for years, so he noticed within like half a day. He sent me a voice note the next morning that I didn't listen to until 2 days later because I knew the sound of his voice was going to make me waffle. It was him saying he was sorry for what he said and he worded it really ugly, and I don't mean it like that, and please call me when you're ready because I feel sick thinking you're mad at me. I didn't call. The first real thing that happened was Thursday night when it stormed. Of course it did. Like as if the weather wanted to make a point. It was one of those Midwest summer storms where the sky goes green and the thunder shakes your teeth. He texted, "Are you okay?" Then he called. Then he FaceTimed. I didn't pick up. Around 2 something I heard my security system chime for the front door camera and my stomach dropped because I knew before I even looked. He was outside with a hoodie up, clutching one of those plastic storage bins and a bottle of ginger ale, like he was coming to sit with me through the storm like always. He hit the buzzer and I let it ring 3 times before I answered, and all I said was, "Don't do this." He said, "I brought your stuff. I have your key." His voice sounded shaky in a way I've only heard twice before, once when his grandfather died and once when his dog got hit by a car. He asked me to come down so we could talk and I told him no, that I would talk to him in the morning somewhere public. He said, "I shouldn't have said filler. That's not what I meant." And then he stopped and I heard him take one of those deep breaths where he's trying not to cry, and I had to hold onto the doorframe because my body wanted to run down there and fix it out of reflex. I still didn't buzz him in. I told him to put the bin down and go home. He whispered okay and left. We met at this coffee shop near his office the next day. He was already there when I walked in, sitting with the bin under the table and my spare key on top. He'd ordered me the drink I always get without asking, which almost broke me again because he remembers everything. He looked tired. I sat down, didn't hug him, and he immediately started in with an apology that was honestly better than I expected. He didn't deflect. He said he hears how gross fill the gap sounds and that he has been selfish. He said he made me a safe person and then covered that with the sister label because it let him have me without having to answer for it to anyone he was dating. He said the size thing wasn't about a number on paper as much as his own brain and fears, and this was new. He told me he's been having issues the last year with performance and hasn't told anyone, and he convinced himself he would hurt me or embarrass himself if we tried to make it something more, and he'd rather keep me than risk that. I told him I wasn't a thing to stash behind a label so he could be comfortable, and if he was scared he should have said scared, not sister. He asked me if there was any version of this where we reset to friends. He said he'd do any boundary I wanted, whatever rules, he just wanted to keep me in his life. I told him what I needed and I didn't dress it up. No more daily all-day calls. No more sleepovers. No more Valentine's Day dates. No more flowers to my job. No more lying to people about what I am to you. If someone asks, I'm your friend, or you can say my name like a normal person, not your sister. No more showing up at 2 a.m. A spare key is for emergencies, not loneliness. He nodded at all of it like a kid getting scolded and then asked if he could hug me, and I said not today. I took my key back and put it in my pocket, and the way he watched that tiny motion felt like the end of something I can't even name. We didn't talk for 3 days after that, besides one text from me sending him the exact time on Tuesday to come get the rest of his things from my place because I realized how much of him had migrated into my house without me noticing. The hoodie he always left on the back of my chair, the phone chargers, the stupid lint roller that's his favorite because it actually sticks, the duplicate toothbrush, 2 video game controllers he temporarily moved over because he hates hauling things, a drawer of snacks in my pantry that were his specific kind of gummy bears, and those protein bars he likes that taste like tin foil. I put everything in a bag by the door. He texted back okay and a heart, which I didn't acknowledge. I guess the universe decided I needed a little whiplash because in the middle of all this, life kept going. My cooking class had our final night where you bring a guest and cook a full meal for them in teams. I didn't have anyone lined up because the one person that would have been automatic was officially not an option. I almost skipped, but my instructor is this older woman who reminds me of my aunt, and she called me out when I tried to duck out early the week before and said, "You're still showing up and that matters." I told her I'd just cook and give my plate to whoever wanted seconds. The guy I've been station neighbors with since week 2 overheard me and said he doesn't have anyone either, and we could just eat together there. He's 33, his name is Eli. He works for the city in planning, which sounds boring, but he talks about neighborhoods like they're people, and he has the most gentle energy. It didn't feel like anything at first besides easy. He offered to pick up the wine pairings and I offered to do extra prep so our station didn't get slammed. We made this lemon herb roast chicken with a yogurt sauce and crispy potatoes and a salad with shaved fennel that I thought I would hate, and then ate an entire bowl of. We sat at the end like 2 kids at the grown-up table, and he asked me questions that weren't diagnostic or fix it why. He asked what I was proud of that week. I said I didn't let a storm bully me into breaking a boundary. He smiled at me in this way that felt like a good job without feeling condescending. He walked me to my car and asked if I wanted to go to the farmer's market Saturday morning because he was going anyway and could help me pick out produce that would actually get eaten. I said yes and then got into my car and sat there with my hands on the steering wheel for like 5 minutes because I could feel the urge to text you-know-who and tell him, like I always do, everything. I didn't. Instead I drove home and put my phone on DND and slept like a person who had finally put a heavy backpack down. Saturday at the farmer's market was nice. That's the word. We walked slow. He didn't pull me by the wrist through crowds. He didn't speed walk. He held a tote bag and let me put too many peaches in it because apparently I think I'm running a restaurant. He showed me how to tell if a melon is ripe and I accidentally thumped like 5 melons to my ear because I thought you were supposed to hear something. You're not, I just looked weird. He laughed and then did the same thing next to me so I didn't feel stupid. We sat on a bench with iced coffee and I told him I've been working with a dietitian, and he didn't launch into a speech about macros. He just said that's awesome and asked if I found any recipes I like. He walked me back to my car and asked if he could text me later a recipe for the fennel salad and maybe a playlist because I told him music is how I convince myself to cook. It felt good to be asked little questions instead of dramatic ones. I almost made it through the day without a weird crossover. Almost. I had my bag of peaches and 2 bunches of sunflowers cradled like a baby and I heard my name, not the nickname. My actual name. I looked up and there he was. He was with 2 people from his office who I recognized from the night at his work, the ones who asked if I was his girlfriend. My heart did that ugly trip thing and I could feel the sweat cold under my shirt even though it was 80 degrees. He looked surprised to see me, not in a bad way, just genuinely surprised. And then he did something that I know he thought was the right thing and it still knocked the wind out of me. He said, "Hey, this is my best friend," and said my name, and then he said their names and kept it moving. It was correct. It still felt like chewing tinfoil. Eli came up right then because he had stepped away to grab eggs from the stand that always sells out. He introduced himself with a little wave and the 2 coworkers did that assessing look thing people do. He didn't. He just stuck his hand out, said hi, nice to meet you, and then looked back at me to ask if I wanted the eggs or if he should put them in his bag. I said his bag, and the smallest part of me exhaled. After they left he texted me, "You look happy," and I didn't answer. He texted again, "I'm glad." And then later that night he broke the boundary he promised and called me 3 times in a row. I answered on the second because I genuinely thought maybe something was wrong. It wasn't. He had been out and he was emotional in that way where he wasn't slurring, but his guard was down. He said, "Are you dating that guy?" And I said I went to a farmer's market with a friend from class. He said, "Okay," and then, "I'm not okay with it," and then, "That's not fair to say, I know," and then he got quiet. He asked me if I would come over because he didn't want to be alone. I said, "You have people. You have your family. Call your brother." He said, "This is the part where you would come over and we'd watch trash TV," and I said, "That part is over." He got mad, which I've seen before but not at me like this. He said, "You're swinging to the other extreme and acting like I'm the bad guy," and I said, "I'm acting like a person with boundaries." He hung up on me. 30 minutes later he texted a paragraph apology about the hanging up and that he's starting therapy this week and he knows he needs to unlearn some stuff. I told him I was glad and to please stick to the plan. He sent a thumbs up. I put my phone on the charger and went to wash my face because my cheeks were hot with that old crying that you're stopping feeling, except I wasn't crying, I was just angry. 2 days after that, I gave him back his last thing. The actual last thing. His spare key. He had left the bin with my things at the coffee shop meetup, but I still had his key stuck on the back of my junk drawer because I forgot to pull it. I texted him to swing by in the afternoon when my neighbor would be home so I wasn't alone and handed it to him in the hallway. He didn't try to step in. He didn't even look past me into the apartment, which is funny considering he used to just walk in and flop on my couch. He took it and did this little breath laugh that was just air, no happy, and said, "I'm sorry I made our friendship something you had to recover from." I said, "Me too." He said, "I really did love you, you know," and I said, "You loved how safe I was, which is a different thing." He nodded. He didn't call me baby girl. He didn't call me sis. He said my name softly, almost like the goodbye was an object we were holding between us. He left. I locked the door and leaned my forehead against it for a minute because my body does dramatic things even when my brain is calm. And then, because life is messy, he didn't disappear. He texted me pictures of his first therapy worksheet. He's still him, and I told him good job and not to send me his homework. He said, right, and we went quiet again. Eli asked if I wanted to go walk by the river after work and I said yes. We walked and talked about work and music and he asked if I wanted to stop by this bar that does trivia on Tuesdays and I said sure, but only if we're on a team with a punny name because my competitive side is unbearable. We sat at a sticky table and named ourselves Quiz Khalifa and were doing fine on pop culture and terribly on sports when I felt that prickle feeling on the back of my neck, like when you know someone's looking at you. I know you know where this is going. He walked in with those same two coworkers and I swear the entire room got 10 degrees hotter. He saw me immediately and did not deter. He came over, put his hands in his pockets and did not touch me, and said my name and then looked at Eli, and said, "Hey man, and gave his name, and Eli stood up and shook his hand and then sat down again, which made me almost laugh because it was such a normal man thing. He said, "We're doing trivia," and he said, "Cool," and then he looked at me and said, "Can we talk for a second?" I said, "Not now." He looked like I slapped him. His coworker, the one with the red hair, said, "Let them play, you can talk to her later," and he listened. He went to the other side of the bar and for the first time maybe ever I didn't have that little tether feeling to him in a public space. He was there and I was here and the space between was just space. I won't lie and say I floated through the rest of trivia like a goddess who is above it all. I was shaky and my hands were damp and I got 3 easy movie questions wrong because my brain was in a tunnel. But I survived it. When we left he texted, "I'm proud of you," and I didn't respond because that's a slippery slope. Eli asked me in the parking lot if I was okay and I told him some of it, not all, because I'm not trying to trauma dump on a man I barely know. I said it's a long friendship that's changing and it's hard and I'm trying to not be mean in my head. He said, "You're allowed to be angry without being mean," which was oddly exactly the sentence my therapist said to me the day before when I told her I hate how sad I feel and how gross that makes me feel. He walked me to my car and didn't try to kiss me or grab me or anything. He asked if I wanted to send him my favorite songs and he'd send me his. When I got home he sent me a playlist titled Not Thunder, which felt like someone had paid attention. Today I did something small that feels big. It stormed again this afternoon. I made tea. I closed my curtains because lightning still freaks me out a little, and I put on that playlist and sat on my couch and watched the room go bright through the fabric. No phone call on speaker. No him on the other end making me laugh on purpose so I'd forget the thunder. Just me. It was loud and I didn't love it, but I didn't call anyone. I didn't die. I texted my sister to tell her I was brave and she sent back 8 flex emojis because she's a dork and then asked if I wanted to come over for tacos. I went and brought the extra peaches and we ate on her floor because her table still isn't built. She said, "You look lighter," and I realized I do. I don't know what happens next with him in the long run. Maybe we figure out a version where we're actual friends who don't lean on each other like crutches. Maybe we don't. He did schedule the therapy. He did stop saying the word sister out loud. He did hand me my boundaries instead of trying to rearrange them. Those are good things. They don't change the fact that the way we were was bad for me. I'm not punishing him by stepping back. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference I never really understood until now. I told him that last sentence in a text tonight because I want to be very clear and not dramatic. He wrote back, "I hear you." Then, "Thank you for not blocking me." Then nothing else. I put my phone on my nightstand and turned off the light and the quiet didn't hurt this time, it just sounded like quiet. Also, not that it matters to anyone but me, but I bought myself flowers on purpose today. Bright ridiculous sunflowers I can't believe I never bought for myself before because I always waited for him to think of it. I put them in a mason jar on my kitchen counter where his hoodie used to hang. When I walked past them to turn off the kitchen light, the whole room looked different. I think that's the point. I think that's the whole update.